Quincy Promes is football's true gangster. Despite being a successful elite footballer, he lives the life of a Grand Theft Auto character. The warning signs were visible at an early age, as at 10 years old he was caught skipping school classes to cause trouble around his hometown Amsterdam, to the point where his local club Ajax were forced to expel him despite him being the best talent in their entire prestigious academy. This was the second time he had been kicked out of a football team, therefore he considered quitting football altogether so he could continue to go down the path of bad behaviour. In general, Amsterdam is a safe place, however you don't need me to tell you it's a large drug trafficking hub and citizens can make a pretty penny being involved in that dark trade. Promes was a self-labelled street rat who spent his childhood moving from neighbourhood to neighbourhood after his father had left the picture. Ending up in a kind of tornado, he kept mixing with new wrong crowds and his mother feared for his future because of his severe behaviour problems. She persuaded him to return to football where he could get his head down, and he signed for Ajax's sister club, HFC Haarlem. His talent could not be contained, and it's unsurprising that top flight side Twente offered him a professional contract at just 19 years old, with him being a first team fringe player shortly after. His boost in stature enabled him to be called up for the Netherlands under-19 national team. Promes joined second tier club Go Ahead Eagles on loan, seeking not just more playing time but a chance to refine his skills on the pitch. While he wasn't necessarily in the spotlight, this was an extraordinary comeback for someone who once grappled with the notion of an ordinary 9-to-5 job just 3 years prior. The Wonder Kid would score his debut goal 2 weeks after signing. At the helm of his transformation was Erik ten Hag, a then 43-year-old rookie manager in his first senior coaching role, and someone we know is exceptional with nurturing young talents like Promes. As the season progressed, Promes' star continued to rise, becoming the heartbeat of the team. He ended that season as the third leading scorer with 13 goals and was named the league's biggest talent at the end of the year. Not to mention, he had been given the nickname Promesi. But it wasn't just about individual accolades. Go Ahead Eagles, fueled by Promes' heroics, clawed their way to a hopeful 6th place finish, with Promes scoring 3 goals to win the playoffs and catapult the Dutch underdogs back to the top tier after a 10-year sleep. More than ready to take on the Eredivisie, he became one of the first names on the Twente team sheet and shone even brighter in the first tier. Sadly, tragedy struck in the form of a knee injury and the dreaded rush to surgery. Anxiety hung heavy, yet Promes defied the odds. Back on the pitch, he wove magic anew, scoring, assisting, and leaving defenders in his wake. The national team beckoned and he secured a coveted spot in the 30-man squad for the 2014 World Cup preparations. With numerous goals under his name and a transfer value significantly increasing, he signed an extended contract with a nice pay rise worth €7,000 a week. Yet still not everything was golden, as away from the pitch, Promes had been hanging around murder-orientated gangs and dodgy rap groups who had links to gun crime and international coke trades. If you have seen my video about Nile Ranger, it's quite clear that the bad boy mindset never leaves you. At the end of that football season, Quincy Promes stood at a crossroads. Offers from Juventus to Valencia glittered before him, yet in a surprising twist, he veered off the expected path, one that led him to Spartak Moscow, also known as the money option. People who had been following Promes weren't really surprised by the move. After all, he hungered for money, constantly discussing it with his teammates and flaunting his flashy lifestyle on social media. Expensive jewelry adorned him and designer clothes clung to his frame. Modesty was a foreign concept. The offer from Spartak was too good to turn down, and Promes packed his bags that summer, leaving the country for a €15 million fee. Predictably, he tore up the Russian league, claiming Player of the Month in August, September, October, November. 18 goal contributions in 18 matches left fans breathless. Inter Milan and Liverpool took notice, poised to strike, but more importantly, he broke through to the senior Netherlands national team, where he was called up for their game against France after scoring 8 goals in the Orange's youth teams. By the end of his first season, Promes was Spartak Moscow's top scorer and was of course hailed as the club's best signing during the 2014-15 season. Despite transfer rumours, he chose to stay with the club. Under new manager Dmitry Alenichev, Promes played attacking football, adapting to various tactics. He scored 18 goals in all competitions despite a period on the sidelines with injury. However, this actually allowed him to spend more time with his wife and his newborn child. In the 2016-17 season, despite interest from other clubs, including Serie A side AC Milan, Promes chose to stay with Spartak. He signed a new contract, extending his stay until 2021. His performance was impressive, but injuries and on-field discipline affected his form. Nevertheless, he finished second in the Russian Player of the Year rankings, and things took an unexpected turn when Promes and his best friend and Netherlands teammate Memphis Depay spent that summer of 2017 doing a music tour, where both their rap music videos would soar in views. Ignoring further transfer interest from European giants, including Manchester United, he continued with Spartak for another season. This time, he dominated the league's goal-scoring charts, amassing 31 goal contributions. His standout moment came in a remarkable performance against Sevilla, where he scored 2 goals and provided 2 assists, leading Spartak to an astonishing 5-1 victory despite having only 32% possession. By the end of the year on the pitch, he was named Footballer of the Year in Russia and Rapper of the Year for Spartak Moscow, probably. Promes rejected a transfer bid from Southampton and became Spartak's most prolific foreign scorer. In the last 3 matches of that 17-18 season, he captained the side, finishing as the top scorer of the Russian Premier League and helping secure Spartak's league championship after a 16-year drought. 2018 would be the biggest but also the most challenging year of Promes' football career so far. He signed for La Liga side Sevilla on a 5-year deal as their biggest ever move. Unfortunately, the transfer didn't pan out as expected. The club's defensive style of play, frequent managerial changes, and their insistence on deploying Promes in various positions except his natural role hindered his goal-scoring abilities. Nevertheless, his debut season ended with 3 goals and 9 assists in 49 appearances. It wasn't all bad though, as he became a national hero after sealing Netherlands' win over England in the Nations League semi-final. Ajax, a team who have long been familiar with Promes and his exceptional talent, sought to sign the Dutch hero, who would be more than welcomed by the fans. Their €15.7 million bid was accepted by Sevilla and he moved back to his home country, making an instant impact, working under his former mentor Erik ten Hag. The goal alchemist conjured 8 league goals in his opening 12 league matches and was the hero for Ajax's first 2 Champions League goals at Stamford Bridge. I remember his FIFA cards being absolutely sensational during this time. His on-field connection with Hakim Ziyech in particular was worshipped by the fans. However, just as they anticipated Promes was going to reach his immense potential, he faced a shocking turn of events. He was detained by the police as a suspect in a stabbing incident that occurred back in July, before he had even made his debut for Ajax. But before we get into that, please like the video and subscribe to the channel as it helps me a lot. Allegedly, during a family birthday party, Promes, heavily intoxicated, got into a heated argument with one of his cousins over a stolen €3,000 necklace. The The altercation escalated and Promes reportedly yelled that he would kill his cousin before stabbing him in the knee, causing significant damage. During the police interrogation, he confessed to attending the party and engaging in an argument with an individual. Together they exited the building where he was forcibly separated from his cousin. He then left in his car. Later that night, he learned that someone had been stabbed. Later, Promes faced another round of questioning and acknowledged that he knew the perpetrator but refused to reveal their identity. Interestingly, Quincy's brother-in-law voluntarily visited the police station on the same day and confessed to being the actual culprit. However, after further inquiry, the police dismissed him as he lacked crucial details about the incident and could not be considered a suspect. Although Promes was eventually released while awaiting trial, the media attention and injuries took a toll on his form. Nevertheless, Promes was still called up by Frank de Boer to represent his country in the European Championships in 2021, which, as you can probably tell, annoyed a vast amount of people. Despite Promes denying any involvement in the incident, Dutch prosecutors reached a conclusion in November 2021 that he should face prosecution and that the specific charge against him was announced to be attempted murder. Initially scheduled for March 2022, the trial date was later postponed due to a key participant falling ill. Following this criminal trial, the national team, to many people's delight, declared his ineligibility until his name was vindicated. Consequently, he was absent from Louis van Gaal's 2022 FIFA World Cup squad and would never represent his country again after 50 caps, but we'll talk more about that one later. Promes had fled to Russia and returned to Spartak Moscow for a modest 8.5 million euros, and he inked a contract for 3.5 years. Certainly not a favourable deal, particularly when you inspect the small print of the contract. Should Promes face legal action, Spartak would remain unscathed, avoiding any financial losses or damages. During an interview, he explicitly attributed his decision to the turmoil unfolding in the Netherlands, which undeniably influenced his choice to depart from there. He continued in Moscow where he left off, making waves on the field. In May 2022, he rewrote his name in Spartak's history books by scoring the decisive goal in a 2-1 victory against FC Dynamo Moscow during the Russian Cup final. In that season, Promes emerged as the top goal scorer in the league's summer stage, netting 7 goals in 7 matches. Spartak fans feared Promes's career would come to a halt, as he was now facing trial for the attempted murder of his cousin. Promes did not show up for this trial, opting to stay and apply for citizenship in Russia, which lacks extradition agreements with the Netherlands. As a result, he was allowed to continue his football and the accolades continued to pile up. In May 2023, Promes scored his 86th goal in the Russian Premier League, crowning him the best foreign scorer in the league's history, with him later becoming Spartak's all-time leading league goal scorer with a total of 88 goals. By the end of the league season, Promes had an impressive tally of 20 goals, trailing only behind the top scorer Malcolm. Promes must have felt on top of the world. He was dropping great performances on the field and he felt seemingly above the law. However, at that moment, there appeared to be no concrete evidence against Promes. His sudden flight might have seemed self-incriminating, but perhaps he possessed knowledge beyond our awareness. Let's rewind to 2020. Dutch authorities intercepted a staggering 4 tons of coke stored in a harbour, worth an estimated street value of £65 million. Subsequently, several individuals closely linked to Quincy Promes, including family members, faced charges relating to drug trafficking and money laundering. Initially, the police lacked a clear basis for investigating Promes, but then something became glaringly evident. He maintained communication with those imprisoned. Over time, it became apparent that these connections extended beyond mere friendship. They were associates. You might assume that someone who earned millions by kicking a ball on the football pitch wouldn't need to dabble in the dangerous world of drug smuggling, right? But when the police decided to tap Promese's phone, hoping to capture any confession related to the ongoing case, they stumbled upon something more than unexpected, but I'll come back to that shortly. The day after the stabbing incident, even before the police were aware of it, they eavesdropped on Promes during a 1 a.m. call to his father. In that conversation, his father expressed concern about Quincy's actions towards his cousin. His chilling reply: "It was either that or I would kill him. Don't you get it?" His mother later informed him that his cousin was en route to the hospital, having been stabbed in the leg. Promes's response: a chilling statement. Then he was lucky. He then claims, "He was lucky I don't carry a gun anymore, or it would all have been much uglier." Around 20 minutes later, he dialed his mother's number. However, this time, it was his brother who picked up the call. Quincy's final words carried a chilling promise: next time he will get bullets. In subsequent messages and phone conversations, Quincy exuded pride. According to his own words, he considered himself a soldier who had restored the family's honour. As you might imagine, by the time the next season commenced, the police had resolved to prosecute him. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Fast forward, the Dutch prosecution service confirmed that they would prosecute Quincy Promes, alleging that he had attempted to import over 1.3 metric tons of coke through the Antwerp port, which they discovered by tapping Promes's phone due to his trial. His supplier? None other than the infamous Surinamese drug lord Piet Wortel, a character reminiscent of the notorious El Chapo and the same evil man behind the horrible murder of former professional footballer Kelvin Maynard, who was shot multiple times in Amsterdam. Intercepted PGP messages revealed that Promes was more than just a passive observer. He was deeply entrenched in the cartel. It's quite clear football was just a part-time job for him. The first shipped batch, 650 blocks cunningly concealed within bags of salt, successfully made its way to its destination, but the second one, weighing in at 712 kilograms, hit a snag, as it was partly seized in Belgium. This high-stakes operation earned the code name Porto. Promes orchestrated the shipments not as a bystander, but as the ringleader. He must have some big, deep connections worldwide for him to be able to do what he was doing at such a large yet secret scale. Prosecutors demanded a 9-year prison term for him and was immediately placed on the international wanted list. Following his conviction, Dutch prosecutors seized 9 houses owned by Promes, and he responded to the conviction with a rap lyric in his new song: "The judge gave me 9 years, but I don't shed a tear for that because I live my life in no fear." In terms of the attempted murder, those charges were replaced by aggravated assault. Despite the prosecutor's request for a 2-year prison sentence, Promes received only 18 months. Since then, Promes's lawyer has been going through an appeal process regarding that verdict. Even in Russia, Promes has struggled to not embarrass himself, as a video surfaced of him attempting to bribe Russian police officers at a city police station. The incident unfolded after 2 of his friends were arrested for driving under the influence of substances and alcohol. Regrettably, Promes was powerless to shield his boys as they spent the night behind bars. Spartak Moscow, the club who was still paying him an annual salary of 2 million euros, publicly asserted that all of his legal battles and social embarrassment won't hinder their best players' participation, and they are still delighted he is at the club, which, looking back on it now, was a terrible thing. You see, Promes and his Spartak teammates flew to a warm weather training camp in the United Arab Emirates. While there, Promes was involved and ran away from a traffic accident in Dubai, so was held back at the airport where he was detained for the incident. As the police found out who he was and discovered his criminal record in the Netherlands, the UAE authorities threw Promes in prison, where the Netherlands have sent an official request for his extradition. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Quincy Promes and Memphis Depay share a close bond. Depay has emphasised that outsiders don't know the Quincy Promes he knows. When confronted with clear facts about Promes, Depay mentioned his challenging background and said he would always support Promes. Holland manager Ronald Koeman has warned Depay over these comments, considering Promes's case is technically ongoing. My guess is that Promes is desperate to be extradited, as he is currently contained in the severe conditions of a UAE prison, which is a far cry from the lavish glamour he has experienced. A Dutch newspaper claims he sleeps on a double bunk bed alongside up to 20 other prisoners who lie on the floor. The conditions are freezing cold and noisy, and disturbingly, incidents of rape occur regularly due to the prison's limited guard presence. The jailhouse provides no fruit or vegetables, and physical exercise is restricted to only 3 times a week. Assuming Promes will serve his full 6-year sentence, he will be released aged 38, and his football career will be history.